Hey Fight Squad, what's up? As always, I'm Chris Bardas and this is another Fightcast. Before we comment on last night's UFC and the predictions that I did yesterday, 2 out of 3 by the way, I want to talk a little bit about Conor McGregor's Q&A. For those who don't know, Conor McGregor did a Q&A with Ariel Helwani in Manchester, England yesterday. The impressive part is that almost 5,000 people paid the ticket to actually go and watch the Q&A from up close. Also, it was broadcasted online as a pay-per-view, and it will be really interesting to see how many pay-per-view sales it did, though obviously the price was much smaller than a UFC pay-per-view. I think it was around 4 or 5 euro or something, $5. Of course, the event wasn't only the Q&A, there was also like a big fancy dinner, there was an after party, there was an auction for Conor McGregor memorabilia, probably a signing event, he signed autographs and stuff, so it was a bigger menu, but of course the Q&A was the most interesting thing to us. Actually, before it even started, Conor McGregor took to Instagram, where with the post he lashed out at everybody, from WWE to Hollywood, everyone. But I have to say that the comparison that Conor did with the UFC on the same day, it has no merit at all, and people really shouldn't buy into it. Besides, the UFC had almost 14,000 people in, so it's not like they were, neck to neck. Now, on the Q&A, Conor spoke about a bunch of things. First of all, he dissed everyone. He called Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov clowns, that they are not on the same level as he is. Those two guys are fighting for the interim belt and the chance to later on fight Conor McGregor for the undisputed lightweight title. He repeated how he doesn't care at all what Aldo and Holloway do, because he doesn't want to fight them, he has already beat them and pretty easily at that, so there's no point in him fighting them again. I disagree with that, but I'm not the one making the decisions. Also, he threw a lot of F-words at the UFC, but then he said that he also respects Dana White a lot, he respects the Fertitta brothers a lot, and he wants to talk face to face with the new owners. On another note, he announced that his unborn kid is actually a boy. He expects to break all his records in the future. We wish him health above all. Also, he said he got an offer to start on the new Predator movie. We didn't know there was one in production. And he said that he had no idea about him acting in the Game of Thrones on the new season. Generally, he threw a lot of stuff here and there, a lot of new info, a lot of old info. He repeated some things he used to say, he repeated some things he said in the past. He tried to create a lot of hype, he's a master at that. But the most important part was his talk about only wanting the Floyd fight next and how he prefers to do it with the UFC for a smoother job, but he's actually ready to go against them if they don't want to make it happen. He is willing to actually fight the UFC for it if they go against his decision. He said, "I have my eyes on one thing right now, and that's Floyd Mayweather. That fight is more than just being explored. There's a lot of steps, but it's the fight to make. It's the fight I want. I believe it will happen at the end of this year or at the beginning of the next year." He also mentioned that he can use the Ali Act so he can promote the fight with Floyd without needing to get the UFC's approval. Now, the Ali Act is a set of rules that applies only in boxing and not in MMA. There are some people who are lobbying for its inclusion of MMA, but there is no progress yet. What it does is actually give more power to the athlete than the promoter, and there have been many articles that detail how Conor can actually use that in his advantage so he can have the boxing fight without the UFC involvement. I've put the link of one of those articles in the info box below so you can check it out, you should. My opinion is still that this fight is not gonna be made. Even if Conor decides to go to court against the UFC and everything goes his way, this is gonna take a lot of time until he reaches a conclusion. A lot of time that Conor might have, but Floyd certainly doesn't. He's much older, he's already out of shape, so I don't think he can wait like another 1 or 2 years for this fight to be made. And let's say they win through all the lawsuits and the courts and all that stuff, then they have to find an athletic commission that actually licenses this fight. And I think that the head of the athletic commission in Nevada or California already said that they're not gonna license it. You see, in boxing, Mayweather is a 49-0 veteran, McGregor is 0-0. So they're not gonna let him just go there and fight Mayweather. He has to at least fight one opponent before Floyd. They can go and make the fight somewhere else in another country, but if you know Floyd, you know he wants to fight in Las Vegas and he wants to fight with his own people there. I think the UFC has to be in the mix and they all know it. And while there's a bigger chance that we're gonna see this fight today than it was, say, last year, I don't think it's gonna happen. There's too many big egos, there's too few money for 3 of them to share, and there's so many obstacles that they have to go through that I don't think it's gonna happen. But who knows? Check the information below for a link to the Q&A and let me hear your opinion. What do you think? Is this fight possible? Do you think Conor has any chance against Floyd in a boxing fight? Do you think Conor is just trying to leverage a better deal for his new contract? Is Floyd just trying to stay relevant? Let me know in the comments. Now, let's talk about UFC and Fox 23. I made 3 predictions yesterday. I said that Ngannou is gonna beat Andrei Arlovski, and he did it, 90 seconds, clear knockout. I also said that Shevchenko is gonna beat Peña, and she did it, actually she did it with a submission, with an armbar, even though she is considered the striker and Peña is considered the grappler. But as I said yesterday, Shevchenko is a more complete fighter, so I thought she would get the win, and she got it. She beat Holm, and now she beat Peña, and I think she deserves a rematch with the champion Amanda Nunes. Ngannou is a beast. I think he's the future of the heavyweight division. He has power in both hands. He's better every time we see him. He's a beast athletically. Even though Arlovski, I think he's not at the top anymore. I think his chin is too weak now. He gets dropped too easily. In the heavyweight division, everybody punches hard. But I think maybe he should call it quits. He has had a great career. I don't think he can fight at the top anymore. Now, the fight that I missed was Cerrone versus Masvidal. I thought Cerrone was in a pretty big streak and he wasn't gonna lose, at least until he had the title fight. But Masvidal exploited one of the big weaknesses of Cowboy. He closed the distance with his boxing. Cowboy is known to not move his head a lot. Masvidal exploited that, punched him really hard, almost finished him at the end of the first round. Cowboy was saved by the bell. Then he finished him at the second. Big win for Masvidal. That's the end of the winning streak for Cowboy, but I think he has more fights into him, though I'm not sure if he's title material. Every time he got close to the title, he lost. I don't know, tell me guys, what do you think? Do you think Cowboy can win a title? Do you think he's destined to always be only at the fringe of the top? Let us know in the comments below. I'm waiting for your questions, I'm waiting for your ideas, I'm waiting for your criticism. This is the end of the Fightcast. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscription if you haven't already, and don't forget, always be some kind of fighter.